Good morning. Today is April 2, 2024, and this is the City of Prescott Council Subcommittee on Water Issues. Do we have a call to order? Oh, yes, I just did that. Roll call, please. Sorry.
Chairperson Rusing.
Here.
Member Fruworth.
Here.
Member Gambogi.
Here.
Thank you.
All are present.
Do you want to read item 3?
Public comment will be accepted following each agenda item and are limited to 3 minutes. Please complete a comment card and return it to the city clerk. Speakers will be called in the order received.
And thank you, and I'd like to welcome everyone that's watching us on Zoom. Okay, item 4.
Item 4A, approval of the February 6th, 2024 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Do I have any comments or changes? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of the February 6, 2024 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting.
Second.
Passed 3-0. Item 4B, presentation and discussion regarding a PFAS update.
Good morning, subcommittee members.
Good morning, Steve.
Steve Olfers, Utilities Manager with Public Works in the City of Phoenix. Prescott, almost said Phoenix. Too many years there. All right. I've been asked to give a presentation today about an upcoming rule and regulation that's going to be submitted by EPA probably by the end of this month. And I did have a presentation. I'm not sure if it ended up there. I guess I have the thing, huh? All right. It's been a while since I've been up here. There we go. So PFAS is an emerging contaminant. We're finding it everywhere in the world. Approximately 17% of the public wells in the state of Arizona have PFAS positive. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about some chemistry. And chemistry of this molecule is quite interesting. PFAS is known as the or the polyfluoroalkyls. Now, this is a group of substances that's man-made and does not break down in nature very readily. This was made, well, if you have a Teflon pan, that's PFAS. All the clothes that we wear, stain resistant, iron proof, all that stuff, I know those were my choices, all have PFAS in them. Anything that's water repellent is going to be some kind of PFAS chemical. So we're talking thousands of different subspecies. The EPA at this point is focusing on 6, and these are the biggest ones that affect human health. And I put this up here just so you can kind of see, I know chemistry is not everybody's passion, but the compounds that these are made of are carbon and fluoride. When carbon and fluoride get together, they make the strongest bonds in chemistry, which means it takes a tremendous amount of energy to break them apart. So when we're talking about these kind of contaminants, we're talking about something that is meant not to be broken down. So here we are with them in our water system. They're starting to show over time that they can cause different types of cancers, and we're finding them everywhere. Unfortunately, for us, they're called forever chemicals because
Yes, exactly.
they've been there and they will be here for all eternity. So we're going to have to figure out how to manage them We can't eliminate them, but we can manage them. And so we're looking forward to this EPA announcement. And so this is what we need to do. How do we remove PFAS? Well, it's kind of hard. We don't have a lot of options. First, we can remove it at the well, which has been City of Prescott's theory from the very beginning. Let's remove it from what we need to serve. Now, in the news recently, you saw Prescott Valley just got a grant to treat their effluent. That's a kind of a different strategy where they're treating everything that goes into the ground. Whereas with ours just goes in without treatment. And you can remove it at the wastewater plant, which takes extensive rehab to get it to a point where you can run it that way. So the City of Prescott has decided to try to focus on removing any contaminants from the well water. Now, what's nice is that we only have one well, and that's well number 5 at the airport. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, and that's the only well that is out of compliance. The Chino well field, individual wells have PFAS in them, but not at levels in which we're going to be concerned about at this point in relation to the EPA. Now, there's always concerns. If there's something there, then there's something we need to do about it. But the way we work in regulatory is we meet the needs of the EPA, what the EPA tells us we have to do. If we need to go above and beyond that, then that's where we get direction and make choices on our own at the local level. So in Chino, we're very fortunate because we have our 2 5-million-gallon well tanks out there, which we can use we just put all the water in the tanks, let it mix itself, and then that's what we use to serve the public. Now, that takes care of both PFAS and arsenic. We're able to blend both of those contaminants to meet all the standards. At the air, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
A couple of questions.
Sure.
You said that PFAS was a combination of fluoride and carbon,
Correct.
but in your chemical model up there, I didn't see any C's.
Let me jump back real quick. Because chemists are lazy, we don't put the C's in the crosses. So where they're crossing there, where the lines cross, those are carbons. We're lazy about that.
The second question I have is, so we get this from Teflon pans and your permanent press shirt, but there was a day where I just had cotton shirts and sent them to the dry cleaners to be pressed. Is the EPA doing anything about going back, or are we just going to try to treat something where we're polluting consciously with something we knew we could do without?
There's a lot of things going on at EPA regarding PFAS, because not only do you have the drinking water side, but then you have the wastewater side, as well as the manufacturers. Right now, they're attempting to outlaw use of any PFAS within the United States. Now, it's a big moneymaker. So 3M, DuPont are the 2 biggies right now, and they have a very strong lobby, and EPA is not going to be able to outlaw, at least not or currently. So what they're trying to do is control how they dispose of their waste products. And so with that also affects other people who have to dispose of waste products. We have a number of different products that we have to dispose of, from our wastewater sludge and potentially any kind of treatment chemical that we might use. All of those things are going to have to fall under this new rule once they're promulgated. Right now, the EPA is jumping out early, trying to get the health effects dealt with on the water side. All the other stuff will follow. So this is not the last we'll hear of PFAS for quite some time.
Thank you. And just let me clarify. I look at PFAS and PFOAs. They're like the sentinel chemicals.
Correct.
For like 10,000 other chemicals. I mean, they're in cosmetics, just anything that's slippery, lotions. And I think if we were all tested in this room, we'd probably all come back positive for PFAS in our bodies. So we have to have a double-pronged approach, not just blending, but also we're going to look at filtration too, correct?
Correct. That is one of our options. That's correct. Now, studies have shown that upwards of 99% of the population in the U.S. have positive PFAS. So it's everywhere: water, air, food that we eat. If you go get a to-go container, it's got PFAS in it. Anything that's slippery.
And it's cumulative too. It builds up over time.
Right, bioaccumulates, yes. So the more you eat, the more you keep. So back to this, we'll be looking at on-site treatment at the airport well field only because we don't have the tank out there to blend. Each one of the wells is an EPDS, or an entry point to the distribution system, which means that's where we have to meet regulations from EPA. In Chino, that point is after the tanks. So we have all that water to mix up to serve to the folks, where at the airport, each well has to be treated as a different system. So at this point, AP well 2 and AP well 3 are at non-detect or very low level detection. AP 5 is our miscreant, I guess, if you want to call it, the one that sticks out, which is about 3 to 4 times higher than what the proposed regulation will be.
And that was shut down immediately.
Correct. That's been shut down since May of 22.
Any idea why that one had higher levels?
Well, there's a lot of theories about why, but nothing that can really be proven. There's a number of different ideas as to where the PFAS comes from, because we have to also remember when we're building wells that we use things that have PFAS in them as well. So are we actually putting PFAS in our wells just by our well parts? Don't know. So that there is a lot of discussion in the scientific community trying to figure out how this stuff gets where it is. And it's been going since 1946 or so. And here we are, however many years, that's like math or something, many years later. And we're finally realizing what effect it has on us. And so, we have a lot of work to do in this stuff. So let's
Yes,
talk
Lois,
a little.
excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I have one more question, just in the spirit
course.
of education. So right now, we're going to remove at the wells at the airport, and as far as Chino goes, we're going to blend. From an education standpoint, is this something that over time can grow and therefore will be left to eventually remove from at all the wells, including Chino?
It's very possible. This EPA has a tendency to tighten their regulations as the time goes on. For those of us who were back in the 90s, we remember arsenic was 50 parts per trillion or 50 parts per billion. It's now 10 parts per billion, and it's being reconsidered over and over again. So this is the first shot at PFAS. And the challenge is we're not talking billions, we're talking about parts per trillion. And so the detection level, or the level at which the test can see it, is only about half of what the MCL is proposed to be. So the detection limit from these instruments can see about 2 parts per trillion. The EPA proposed rule is 4 parts per trillion. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there. I mean, we're talking really, really small.
So is this something, given that we don't know or do you have any idea of when the EPA ruling is going to come down? But is this something we should be building into a capital plan forecast of all the equipment or other things we're going to need since we're in budget season?
We have CIP funds
Good.
funded out in FY 26, 27, and 28. At least we're requesting that.
Good.
There are a number of different options, and so I wouldn't say we've determined that we're going to filter at the airport, but the airport is our concern. That Airport 5 well is the main concern.
Yeah, no,
So-
for the spirit of the health of the community,
Right.
we'd rather you budget and plan that we're going to do it and then find out we don't have to.
That's the goal, yes.
Good, thank you.
So we have all this in mind. What's nice is when these rules come out, generally there's a 3-year compliance period. So it may come out in April of this year, but it wouldn't have to be complied with until April of 27. So it gives us a little bit of time to get our wits about us and find some potential solutions. Now there's 4 different options that we have. The first one is using filter media called GAC, which is granular activated carbon, just like the stuff you have in your filters at home. Okay, that is able to remove PFAS if it's in contact long enough. It has to be in contact upwards of 3 minutes before it'll actually remove it. These things are not fun to play with, and they don't play well with others either. So it takes a lot of time for the water to spend in the media. It's called an empty bed contact time if you want the whole shebang. But what this means is that these will be cylinders that are approximately 6 to 8 feet in diameter, 14 feet tall, full of media of granular activated carbon, and the water will run through the first tank and then come back and run through the second tank. And that's called a serial treatment system. And in this case, it would be granular activated carbon. And we're talking tons of granular activated carbon. The second one is an ion exchange media. This is a media that has been designed specifically to target the removal of PFAS. So essentially, it's beads like you have in your softener at home. It's a bead with the proper ion to grab the PFAS as it goes through the water. So that's another option that we have. A third option is to go to the whole reverse osmosis type situation, which you probably have under your sink too, or some of us do have under your sink in a smaller form. This is a much bigger manufacturer level format. Highly expensive, a lot of energy, a lot of water waste that comes along with that. So it's probably not the greatest option for us. And then you always have the option of going out and finding another well. New well source allocation. Go out there and dig some wells, see if you can find a well that produces enough and provides low contaminant levels. So those are the 4 options we have when it really comes down to it. At this point, we're planning on all of them except reverse osmosis. So we've been doing our work. We've been working with ADEQ and their specialists. I've been attending a number of different meetings with those folks, and we're on a monthly call with them talking about these issues. There's a lot of other people who are in this boat with us and who have already broken ground to provide some guidance for us. So our attempt is to let them learn, and then we'll follow behind and meet the regulations without having to have all that pain of figuring things out.
Steve, I have a question. Didn't we hire an engineering firm that can help design something for us?
We had discussed that. Yes, we had a contract that the council did not pass. And so at this point, we've just been trying to gather as much information as we can on our own. I'd like to bring a contract to the council, but that's going to be up to Public Works Management.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we didn't pass it. I thought we did.
No.
Oh. Well,
What were
we'll
the
have to
reasons we didn't pass
Yeah,
it?
we'll have
I'd like
to look
to know
at
as
that.
a new
I'm
member.
sorry, I was.
No,
I thought it was cutting edge and was totally on board with hiring a specialized engineering firm to kind of save us time and money in the long run.
We had talked about that, and we had brought something to the council for that. But at the time, we really had no direction. There was a lot of different ideas out there in the direction we wanted to go. So we just kind of stepped back from that and started learning on our own as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take another look at that.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so moving on. This is what we have coming up. The EPA has proposed a rule limiting PFAS to 4 parts per trillion in drinking water. The final rule is expected to be released this month. It just got through OMB, and it's all up to the EPA when they want to announce it. The detection limit, again, as I mentioned, is around 2 parts per trillion, which makes it really challenging. There's not a lot of wiggle room between those two numbers, 4 and 2. So it's going to be really challenging to find that happy point. Once again, all the wells are below this level except for well 5 at the airport. We blend. Wells 2 and 3 are non-detect at the airport. And just for your information, these are the levels in parts per trillion for each one of the wells, and we've been tracking this since May of 22 when we were told that we had PFAS, and so we started doing all the required sampling, and you can see Chino 1 and Chino 2, they have detection for PFOA, which is a portion of PFAS. It's a category. Chino 2 is about 3. Now, Chino 1 doesn't run very often, if at all. It's a very small well, old well, out on the Chino water production facility site. So the biggest ones that we use are 2, 4, and 5 out in Chino. Chino number 3 is just getting back online after being through rehab over the last year. So we'll see what that one looks like. So right now, our supplies are fine. We have plenty of water. You can see Chino 5 here is testing just slightly above the expected proposed MCL. But once we get done with all that, we get it all mixed up. You can see the last line there, EPDS 11, which is the Chino wells, is a non-detect. And that's what we've been aiming for since we first found out about this contamination.
Let me just ask you a question.
Sure.
You know, we naturally have high levels of arsenic in our wells, and so we've been blending for a long time.
Correct.
Do you think that in the long run that was beneficial? We just accidentally started blending, and that would have reduced our PFOA's level before we even knew they were there?
I'm sorry, can you ask again?
Oh, we've been blending.
We have been blending, correct.
To bring the arsenic levels down.
Right.
Do you think that might have, in the long run, before we knew about PFOAs and PFAS, do you think that might have helped or not even made a difference? It's
It
just
does.
a question.
Blending always should help. It just was happenstance that we were able to have the infrastructure there to be able to blend. If we had that infrastructure at the airport, we could do the same thing there. But at this point, we don't have that infrastructure.
Another question for education. You've done a nice job of educating on PFAS. Help me understand PFOA, because in the pre-reading I was like, what is this?
Okay, so PFAS is up here. PFOA are subcategories of those. As I said before, EPA is focusing on 6 of those chemicals, of those thousands of chemicals. PFOA and PFAS are the 2 main ones that they're focusing on. There's 4 others that are going to be combined, more or less, into another type of, I don't know, it's hard to explain because it's more along the lines of industrial hygiene, the way they're doing it. And so they're combining these 4, and then you got to do some math, and you come out with a number at the end, and then you look at their chart, and they tell you where your number sits on their chart. So there's going to be 6 regulatory components. 2 will be individual, such as the PFAS and the PFOA. Those will be individually, have individual MCLs. The other 4 will be all combined.
So let me just make sure. PFAS with an A in the FOS is the forever chemical category.
That's the category.
Underneath it is PFOS with an FOS and PFOA.
Yes.
Thank you.
And many, many others. So what this is telling us is that we are meeting all the requirements that will be set forth. Again, Airport Well 5 is out of commission. We haven't had it on to the system since we first found out that we do have PFAS out there. Everything else is running and operating in perfect order. Once we get Chino Well 3 back, that will give us more flexibility and more supply. So at this point, the PFAS, once the rule comes out, it's really not going to affect us other than, okay, it's another rule we have to follow. But at this point, we're operating as if the rule was already in place, and we're doing just fine. So in the end, PFAS has been a big thing in the news, but for Prescott, we have no issues with it. Now we're going to have to decide what we want to do with well 5. It's a great well, and it's a huge producer, but with that contaminant, we can't put it into our system.
Yeah, and I just would like to note, this is just anecdotal evidence that well 5 is the closest one downstream from our airport.
It is close. It's not the closest to the airport, but it is the second closest, if you will. So yes, it is downstream, or what I would consider downstream from the wastewater plant.
And it was our biggest producer. It was like 2,500 GPMs, and it's like 1,000 feet deep.
It has the capacity of approximately 2,500 gallons per minute. But at this point, we can't run it at that level because the distribution system isn't big enough to put 2,500 gallons per minute into it. So we've been running it at reduced capacity. When we were running it, we were running it at reduced capacity. So we've never seen the full potential of that well yet.
Steve, how far is well 5 from 3 and 2?
Well 3 is on the Ruger side of the airport. And then well 5 is well north. I'm sorry, I don't have a map. And well 2 is located on the golf course side, so on the Martin Marietta side. They're approximately 3/4 of a mile apart from each other. You just can't get there from one or the other because 2 is on one side and 3 and 5 are on the other. It's very confusing.
They're all drawing off the same aquifer.
Everybody's drawing off the same aquifer, yes, sir. So it's very confusing for scientists to try to figure out what's going on because you can't see the water underground. We have thoughts that, okay, we can measure a general direction, but we really don't know where the water's going for the most part. So there could be cracks in the ground that allow water to move quicker through other porous substances. There's all kinds of different things that could come into play. And maybe as we get more experience with PFAS, we'll find other ways to deal with it. And of course, the scientists are going crazy. They got all these fancy electrocute the PFAS to make it whatever into something else. And, it works really good on the bench, but not at 3 million gallons a day.
Is well 5 the furthest north from the airport?
It's the furthest north and east, yes. It's right off the end of the runway. Well, that's all I have, unless there's other questions.
I do have one other question while
sure.
I'm learning.
Of course.
You got to think about what's the source? Where's this coming from? What industries? Industries, there's lots of them. The question would be, would this be something that down the road, again, in the spirit of capital planning out there or other kinds of planning out there, that we need to think about buying upstream land to protect our flows, or to protect our wells from the flow of industries?
I get what you're asking. ADWR, who's the Arizona Department of Water Resources, limits where we can put wells. In this county, we have almost 15,000 wells. Most of them are unregistered or private. So we have to be careful where we site our wells because we don't want to pull the water from those folks. And so there's a lot of challenge. We just don't know. And unfortunately,
Plus, I'd like to add that didn't ADWR tell us that we needed to drill wells where we recharge?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's why we recharge into the wash there, Granite Creek Wash. And so if you're recharging there, then they said, well, it makes sense that that's where you should be drawing the water.
Correct.
But unfortunately, I think that might be coming back to bite us because it is an industrial area next to the airport.
And I don't see any evidence saying that we have an industry that is creating this stuff. I think it's just coming from everybody using, every time you wash your clothes, every time you throw away garbage, if it gets wet, it seeps in. They've isolated it in the air. It's really everywhere. You talk about microplastics, you can actually see those. PFAS, you can't.
So we're probably better off from a long-term strategy of figuring out treatment options on site right now of the water when it comes out of the ground, or the strategy that you said Prescott Valley's, working, which is treat it before it goes back into the ground to be eventually
Correct.
redrawn.
Yeah.
That's the strategy. If we're going to invest, that should be where we do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would
Okay.
be
Thank you.
at the wellhead. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'd like to bring up the engineering firm. I don't know what happened. I thought we had okayed that, and so I'll talk to our public works director, Gwen.
Oh no, I know I knew who she is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying for the
Yes.
for the people.
For the people. Yeah. We need
and
to
get
look
that
into
on
that
the
further.
agenda. If I didn't know I don't think we voted against it. I think it's somehow something happened, and so I
And
need
it
to get
could
to
be.
the bottom of that because we need to. I was under the impression that we were leaning forward on this,
Mm-hmm.
and so we need to.
And we have been leaning forward. We
Yeah.
just haven't been doing it using a vendor.
But hiring an engineering firm, I think, would save us a lot of time and effort and money in the long run to take care of this problem, and also maybe continue with monitoring our equipment. And so, okay,
Thank you.
all righty. Thank you very much, Steve. Anyone else have some questions? Okay,
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item C.
2022 Water Management Policy Discussion, Current Residential and Non-Residential Water Budget Overview for January 1st, 2024 through March 20th, 2024.
Good morning, subcommittee members.
Good morning.
So I'm Brian Reese, Water Resources Environmental Services Manager for Public Works, City of Prescott, and today I have the presentation for you on the water budget. So the 2022 water policies number, or I should say, the amended 2022 water policies 11 through 13 establish a semi-annual water budget for residential and non-residential projects. So for the budget set between January 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024, the residential project budget was set at 25 acre-feet for that period, and the non-residential budget was also set for 25 acre-feet for that period. So starting with our residential projects between January 1st, 2024 and March 20th of 2024, when we cut off the period, two new residential projects were approved, totaling was that 0.34? It looks like 0.34. Yes, 0.17 and 0.17. 0.34 acre-feet, leaving a remaining 24.66 acre-feet within the budget on the residential side. Between the same period of January and March, for non-residential projects, we had a total of 7 non-residential projects that were approved, totaling 3.07 acre-feet. And leaving a remainder of 21.93 acre-feet for the non-residential projects. And between January 1st, 2024 and March 20th, 2024, there was a total of 14 projects approved under existing contracts. All the projects were single-family homes located primarily in groundwater subdivisions. The total number of residential dwelling units approved 14 totaled 2.46 acre-feet, and projects per water policy that are under existing contract are not subtracted from the semi-annual water budgets. So that's my brief report for you today. I saw one thing here. We're going to change this particular table next time to say non-residential. It should match our category of non-residential instead of commercial. We try to get more information on these tables per the last meeting. So if you have any questions, or if there was if these tables, the way they're suited, if there was any other way that you want to do that, we'll keep working on them until we get them to your liking.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question. Brian?
Sure.
I see 2 Chino Valley entrants in your previous, or in your third slide. Why do we track Chino Valley?
Well, Chino Valley is in our service area. Yes. We have commitments to water from Chino Valley through multiple contracts, and they're part of our service area, and they're part of our, we have to track them for our portfolio.
Yeah, we do
Yes.
residential, was it called the Old Home Manor area?
CVID, yeah,
CVID.
CVID contract, and then we have a commercial corridor contract
Then, yes.
that over the years we've put together.
We approved the 4-mile stretch along 89 is the commercial corridor, and it's not for residential hookups, it's for businesses to hook up to the City of Prescott water.
Yes, and then prior to that was the CVID, which we provide water for the townsfolk of Chino Valley.
I don't think the public really understands how extensive our water system is. It's not just in our city limits. We provide water to the subdivisions outside the county. For example, Mountain Club, High Valley Ranch up off Copper Basin Road, Wildwood off of Iron Springs, Kingswood, those areas out there. And we also provide water to the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe and all their future needs. We have to provide water to them through a 1994 agreement, and they don't have to pay the 30% surcharge either, so they're getting a pretty good deal. Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Okay, item number D.
Educational series, presentation and discussion regarding water resource management, Prescott water supplies and service area.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Grazer, Public Works Water Resource Project Manager. So this educational series, there has been discussion that the water resource management staff would provide the subcommittee with brief educational presentations on various topics and when they're timely. I think some of what Councilperson Rusing just mentioned, you're going to see right now, some of the history that you have learned over time. So I'll try to bump up the info a little bit. So let's see. This is the agenda for today. I do have a groundwater video that I'm going to show the group because I think it's a nice starting point. With the video, it is done by Arizona Project WET. It has 9 different series to it. It provides an overview, which I think is important. And you'll notice that it's for the general audience. So usually educational series go kind of to that 5th grade level. So you're going to see a little bit of that, but at the same time, I hope you enjoy
Perfect for city
it.
council members.
Yeah. Well, that's how, you're taught to write, in your professional careers is hit the 5th grade level. And then if you're in technical areas, then of course you bump it up as it's appropriate. So we'll look at the water supply as a service area, as was discussed just moments ago, and any questions you may have. And these series could be presented by other staff members. You're just stuck with me today on this one. So we're going to go ahead and roll this video. And I'll be quiet.
Episode 1, The Unique Hydrological Cycle of Arizona. Arizona, best known for the breathtaking Grand Canyon and the red rocks of Sedona, and its bustling cities, like Phoenix and Tucson, is also known for a more challenging feature: its semi-arid, dry climate. Well over half of the state is defined as desert or dry grassland, with an average yearly temperature of about 84 degrees. And here's the thing: in Arizona, we lose an average of 7 times more water to the atmosphere than we receive from it. So that means a lot more water is going up than coming down. This becomes very important when you consider that every living creature needs water to survive. Like, for example, blue here, a great blue heron. Common to our state, this large bird can be found around water and soaring above our landscape, making him the perfect guide to Arizona's hydrological secrets. Ecosystems throughout Arizona, including those found in the desert, rely on water that arrives in many different ways. As long as humans have lived here, they have been finding ways to collect, preserve, and manage as much water as possible. Through naturally occurring and engineered systems, people have been quite successful in their efforts, enabling generations to thrive in this arid environment. In a constant race against evaporation and drought cycles, Arizona's scientists, engineers, and policymakers have moved water from one place to another, channeling it through canals to places where it can be used or stored for later. However, there is another source of life-giving water, one not seen by the naked eye. And to find it, we don't need to look from this vantage point, but instead, we just have to look down at our feet. That's right, our feet. Because below the surface of where you are right now, a huge resource exists. It turns out 98% of Earth's available freshwater is what's known as groundwater. Yep, you got it. Water underground. So, is there groundwater for us to use here, where we live? In fact, there is. And we have been pumping wells to get it out of the ground for many, many years now. Without question, groundwater has been the most essential resource in Arizona to grow our food, manufacture products, and to use right in our homes every day. But how much of this groundwater can we really use? Watch episode 2 for a deeper dive into groundwater.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop there. And this is a resource that we can use here at the city. We can use it in our public presentations. As I mentioned, there's 9 episodes. So if there's something timely that we want to talk about, this is kind of a good lead to it.
Leslie, if the public would like to see this or share it with their families, is it available via your website?
We have not done that on our website for educational purposes, but we can shoot this around. So this would be under Arizona Project WET, and it's going to be under groundwater. It's very easy to find through YouTube. So I would recommend at this point, the easiest way to get there is go to your YouTube and plug in groundwater, and it'll pop up. That's how we were able to load this for today's presentation. But I think the key piece out of that, as I mentioned, it's a very soothing young voice that's speaking, and they go to different speakers through the different episodes that they have. But today's was key because we talk about recharge quite a bit, and how, we're putting all this water down, but at the same time, we lose a lot. And so working out recharge discussions, we need to see that it should be obvious, but we lose a lot of water back up into the atmosphere here. So just pushing along, if that's okay. I might need some assistance. Thank you. Okay, next slide. So, and I think the other key point is that showed a lot of the metropolitan area, but when you go into different episodes, some of our areas featured too. So it's really nice that they covered the state with this discussion. So water supplies, these should all be familiar to you. Groundwater, of course, is pumped from the wells in the Little Chino Subbasin Aquifer. Just some numbers to throw with this. These are provisional, and that means that even though we've just filed our annual report for 2023, it needs to be reviewed by the state. And but just to give you an idea, We've pumped over 7,000 acre feet out of the ground this year. On the surface water side, that's our Watson and Willow reservoirs. 3,000, about 900 acre feet was sent to the recharge facility. The reclaim supply, of course, we get over 5,000 plus back to the wastewater treatment plants, but once it's reclaimed, in 2023, we sent about 3,500 to the recharge facility and about 1,500 to direct delivery. When we look at the imported supply, I think that's familiar to everybody as well. That's Big Chino. There was no pumping out at the Big Chino Water Ranch. Oops.
Leslie, did those figures include the water that we save with our incentive program for water conservation?
No, I didn't give you any conservation numbers on this one.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Just some big, broad numbers for this very kind of basic, quick talk, but happy to dig into details when the time comes. You'll probably have a presentation on the annual report at some point or just a memo out. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on this one because I think all three of you are very familiar with the diagram that we use related to the legal water supplies. As you know, this is the 2009 decision order, which is still currently active, although being updated. Okay, the service area. Oh, I wish we had a pointer. Okay, it's hard to do, but I think you can find yourself on this map. I usually do a UR here, so we're kind of in the lower left area of the darker blue, where you're sitting at City Hall right now. So the darker blue is the city limits, while the lighter blue is our service area. This is outside the city limits. Potable supplies, of course, are provided to the inside city limits, the darker blue, as well as the outside, to include the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe, portions of Chino Valley, portions of unincorporated Yavapai County. There's water hauling, of course, that goes outside of our area as well. And then in the future, again, I can't point it to you, but Section 33 is probably familiar along the Pioneer Parkway. That potentially, if it's, moved into Prescott Valley, then we're also serving another community. A chunk of our service area resides there.
It's currently in the county.
Yep.
I believe.
So if it gets annexed in, we have an agreement that we will serve that. Annexed into Prescott Valley. If it gets annexed into us, then of course we're serving it anyways because we have a development agreement. So overall, actually I need to get you up into the upper left-hand portion. That's the Chino Valley area. So of course this map would be much tinier if we tried to scale it that way. So you have an inset that includes Chino Valley. Overall, 65 square miles is served by the city. Customers in 2023, at the end of the year, customers within, over 23,000 customers. Outside, we have almost 3,500. Okay.
Excuse me, Leslie, you
Yes,
said
ma'am.
almost, how many customers are hooked up to the water?
Almost over 26,000 that we have accounts for.
And inside
That's
the
both.
city.
Okay, so individually, inside city limits, it's going to be 23,176 accounts. Outside is going to be 3,495.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
You bet. So focusing in a little bit more on Chino Valley, and I think you might have already covered this yourselves a little bit, but we do have what I have called, because of being here so long, there were pre-1998 connections or contracts. So there were areas such as Chino Meadows, such as Parkside Village. Here again, I can't point them to you, but they're in that picture there. We'll have to figure out how we can do that in the future because it would be helpful to be able to point to the screen. And then the Chino Valley Irrigation District IGA, that started another level of service out there. So that's kind of the pinks, the pastels you see under those blue and red points. And then, as you also mentioned, the commercial corridor is also served.
And Leslie, Chino Valley has their own wells and also has a separate water system, don't they?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. And you have a few private water companies, small outfits there, as well as a lot of exempt wells. Okay. I think we are just about at our last slide here. So jumping back to the 2023 potable and non-potable, to give this another breakdown and look, this is an old figure that I've used many years and brought it back out, but with, of course, 23 data. So you can see that predominantly you serve residential customers in the blue, and then the warmer colors, those oranges, are all your non-residential. So residential, about 4,335 acre feet in 2023. Once again, please remember these are provisional. And then non-residential, 2,146, which we used to have somebody who did the math on me all the time, so I'm ready for you. But that rolls up to 6,481. And that should make you go, question mark, didn't you earlier say that you pump 7,000 plus? And so we also have non-revenue water that we have to account for. So these are numbers based on billing accounts. So these are, paid. There's revenue coming in from these accounts. And then there's other activities that all communities have that's called non-revenue water, where the fire department needs to run some drills and we don't, bill them, but we do keep track of the use. Those kind of things. CAFMA, even not our own fire department sometimes, and others. So I'm not picking on the fire department by any means. They're just a really good example. Flushing wellheads, things that you have to do to maintenance the system.
Leslie,
It's non-revenue water.
you raised a question here that I actually heard from the public recently, so I'm glad you brought it up. I'm surprised to see so much construction water of potable water. I would have thought when they're keeping dust down or cleaning streets that we would be using non-potable water. So what's going on here?
What's going on there? So I think predominantly they do try to take our effluent supplies and use that, and then we have multiple contracts for those. They have easy access to, well, I shouldn't say easy, it all costs money. Everybody's working, but they have access to reclaimed supplies. On the other side, there's some cases where they do connect to fire hydrants and they use that water, and that's the commercial water that's potable that you're seeing in that chart.
Yeah. There's a construction site just up the street from me, and they're hooked up to the fire hydrant.
Right. And we
dust
meter
control.
that. So
Yeah.
operations goes out, they install a meter. There used to be a contract. I don't know if they still do that, where they track and make sure they know who's getting the water off of the potable system, how long they're going to be using it, things like that. So there's within code requirements like that. So in my neighborhood is an example as well. So they recently finished up a water line project in my neighborhood, and they were connected to one of the new fire hydrants. We didn't have fire hydrants before, but they added the fire hydrant and they tapped into that to dust control, whatever they needed it for at that time.
Yeah, but we don't we have a standpipe where
Yes, ma'am.
major construction companies, and this is A+ treated effluent. It's not like they're spraying raw sewage out there. The public
it's
needs
reclaimed.
to know this
So
is
we send out reclaimed.
non-potable water.
Yes.
And whenever possible, major contractors will use it in their water trucks to
Oh, yes.
to keep the dust down, dust control.
So yep, we have a system where we're watching both potable and non-potable, and reporting both potable and non-potable to the state. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Could we see more of that down the road? I'm just, it's so important to have potable water to the public, and I'm sitting here going, what are we doing spraying it on dust and construction? And I just don't understand the strategy here. So I might be naive, but I just would, in the spirit of learning more down the road, I would like to focus on that because we're limited in how much effluent we can recharge, right?
Yep. Permits.
So I would love to use more effluent on non-potable reasons. And so it just surprises me that
we can
they're
break
on
it
this
down.
chart.
Certainly, yeah. Water management and water operations has a lot of ins and outs. So we're happy to break that down in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because
This might be more of a strategic discussion down the road. Okay, thank you.
A long-term management plan for your non-potable supplies would.
Yeah,
Yep.
because there's water hauling companies that haul effluent around to keep dust down, and instead of hooking up to our city water, maybe a contractor could call a water truck and have it spray the area.
Yeah. I think before your concern gets too high, we should run the numbers for you where you can see how much is already used on the reclaim side, the non-potable that's used for construction purposes, which and how much is potable.
Yeah.
So you kind of have not a clear picture.
Good point. All right, thank you.
Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
I got a question.
Oh, I am not done. Yes, sir.
I try to educate myself on water by watching YouTube videos before dinner. And I've learned that Arizona has saved a lot of water by reducing agriculture. I think they even said that residential uses less than agriculture. In your pie chart, is agriculture in there?
No, I would say no, because we don't really have a large agricultural component, but we do have turf, and you might consider that agriculture, but it's not like where a crop is being produced. So yes, you'll see across Arizona where the big outfits are, Pinal County in that area, still outside of Phoenix. There's a lot of agricultural development, even, agricultural use, let me say that. And then even down in the Yuma area, the largest producer of our wintertime lettuce supplies comes from the Yuma area. So we're just looking only at our 2023 and maybe some of the clips that you've been watching. It's absolutely true. Agricultural use is very high. So they've worked over the years to bring down their consumption as much as they can. But, that does require a certain amount of water to grow a crop, whether it be cotton or lettuce or whatever, that is.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, and then I'd just like to summarize so that the public realizes how big our water service area is. It includes Chino Valley and the commercial area, 4 miles of 89, and then you showed us the communities in Chino Valley, Parkside, that get Prescott City water. And then out in the county, we have High Valley Ranch, Mountain Club, Stringfield, Wildwood, Kingswood. Is there anything else I can think of?
Highland Park on the far left side.
Okay.
So yeah, this map is our most current. I can't read the date on it, but this one was included within your amended 2022.
Highland Pines. Yeah,
Highland
it's
Pines.
called Highland Pines.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm
I
like
forgot
Highland
about
somewhere.
Highland Pines. And
Those
then,
folks, so yeah, it's amazing. The city's moved out water, well outside of its current city limits for
And-
various reasons.
and then the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe.
Yeah.
We have an agreement with them to provide them with not only their current needs, but all future needs.
We have a settlement. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Prescott in all future annexations.
Yeah, everything you see on this map is the current service area of 65 square miles.
So it's a lot more extensive than you realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pictures are worth 1,000 words, as they say, right? Maps
Yeah.
are very helpful.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Thanks, Leslie. Okay. Moving on to item E.
Item 4E, presentation and discussion regarding the 2025 General Plan Water Resources Element Part 1.
Hello again, Subcommittee. Brian Reese here again, and I have a presentation for you here today. We've been working on the 2025 General Plan Water Element on the staff level, and we've brought to you today a outline with some concepts and goals that we wanted you to consider and give us any feedback. I plan to do this in a 2-part series where today we concentrate on the goals and some of the basic outline structure that we're looking at for the water element. Get that feedback from you, and then next month we come back with a document that you can take a look at, and we go from there. So with
Brian,
that,
before we,
yes.
I have a question about the timeline. So when's our deadline to have this water element hammered out?
Last December. Tammy DeButt, community planner and the lead on the general plan update. So this is part. My notes. So we have a different format of the general plan we're doing. We're not doing it per element like it usually has been in the past, which is a pretty general concept. We're creating different categories or themes. So the water will be under resiliency and sustainability with fire, environmental planning, climate, and energy. So this is
Nice.
going to be combined with those
Okay.
as a chapter.
So you're not taking the 10.0 out of the old general plan and just wordsmithing it.
Well, they are. They're updating that and then adding more information or
Okay.
updating the information that's more relevant for future
Okay.
planning than maybe we had in there in the past.
Okay, so you're still going to be working off of the old general plan document?
Well, we'll be presenting. We took pieces of the old general plan element. We rearranged it a little bit.
Okay.
There's some things in it that are the same as the old general plan because either they haven't been accomplished or it still matters. But
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to create it in a concept that makes sense for us from a water element. Then we'll present it to Tammy, and if she needs us to trim certain parts of it, or be briefer here, or be more descriptive there, or make it work with this component of the general plan, then we'll go into that stage.
Or the
Okay.
committee will review it and give comments and take things out, or a lot can happen over the next 6, 7, 8 months.
Okay, all righty, thank you. A lot of work ahead of us
Yes.
and
Okay.
behind us.
So here's our agenda for today. We're just going to go over the water element requirements per statute. We broke down into 3 major goals that kind of fall along the kind of the 3-part series of water element that we're proposing here, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end of it. So first, in your agenda packet, there was an outline that we were looking at. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that a little bit because it's kind of what we're going to be following for the concept of our general plan. The very first section, the introduction section, kind of follows suits with the statute requirements for a general plan. So I have this slide up here to kind of give a summary of that. So per Arizona statute, the known and legal and physical available surface water, groundwater, and effluent supplies has to be addressed in the general plan. The demand for water that will result from growth projected from the general plan from added and existing uses. So that's all of these parts will be addressed kind of in a text format to describe how we're either addressing them or the nature of our water supply system in accordance to them.
Yeah.
And then
Brian, I'd like
Yes.
to just, maybe I'm getting ahead.
Sure.
I saw in the handout you had the Prescott, the Prescott AMA map, which is in the old general plan.
Yes.
But I'd also like to include, Leslie had a slide of our water service area. I think that's, like she said, one picture's worth 1,000 words. So I think that should be included in our general plan. I love maps.
Yeah, definitely. The pictures help. So we will do that. An analysis of how the demand of water that will result from the future growth projected in the general plan will be served by the water supplies identified in Part A and this paragraph, or and plan or a plan to obtain additional necessary water supplies. So these are our statute, our in statute what we have to do within our general plan. So our first portion of the general plan is going to tackle these right off the bat and discuss various aspects of them that relate to Prescott. So to do that, we're looking at the introduction section where we're going to begin right from the start, or at least backing up to the start of it. That's kind of that makes sense for the general plan. 1970s adjudications have been going on. They're a big part of how our water supply will be managed in the future. So we want to make sure that we touch on that. Those adjudications touch upon the Gila River system and the Little Colorado. Our Verde River, the Verde River is part of is a tributary to the Gila River. So they're ramping up efforts as we speak on the adjudication for the Verde River. And things have been happening for quite a while, but there's been several developments over the last 2 years.
And plus, I noticed the old general plan didn't mention preserving the headwaters of the Verde River or our adjudication with Salt River Project. I think that might be an important part of history too. That we have to be cognizant of the Salt River Project.
Yeah.
And because they own all the surface water rights in the Gila River.
Yes, exactly. So I think we'll be touching on that in that adjudication, which is based on SRP's is based on their water rights is what is leading those adjudication efforts. So moving from adjudication to the 1980 Groundwater Management Act, how that affected our Prescott water supplies when we were created into an active management area. The Prescott AMA map, and I wrote down right here, and water service area map. There might be another couple of maps that we might bring to you also for reviewing at the next meeting. The 1998 DNO determining that AMA was out of safe field, how that impacted us and how it impacts how we manage water in our area. So, and then the 1999 city's first DNO of assured water supply. So little touch paragraphs on each of these subjects to kind of bring people up to speed and what's important about each of them. So again, here's kind of a maps of the Verde River area on your left, which is important for the adjudications, important for the headwaters of the Verde River as it applies to our Big Chino water supply and the issues around that. To the right is our active management area. So that just shows that we're part of a bigger overall active management area for our water supply that we have to think about as we're thinking about our water policy and our water resources.
I sure wish we had laser printers. On the map to the left, can you give me some idea where to look to see the Verde River?
It should be right down the middle of the green, the blue line. Yep. And so up at the top of it, at the green at the top, that's the Big Chino subbasin through there, and that kind of starts, and you kind of see where that blue line starts would be the headwaters. Okay, and that kind of leads into our goal number 1, maintain the highest Arizona standards of water for water providers, our designation of assured water supply. So basically our goals and our strategies built around that goal will be in making sure that we are meeting all our regulatory requirements as an assured water supplier. And that's extensive. We have to do annual reporting. We have to do our decision in order when it comes back up. We have multiple different submittals that we have to make throughout the year in order to show whether it's various plans, various regulatory aspects. So we need to make sure we're staying on top of all of those things. And in order to do that, we have to coordinate with other departments. We have to coordinate with our utilities department, Steve's team, their water ops or wastewater groups, and in some instances it even goes into recreation services because they manage they have some portion of managing our surface water supplies. So you've already seen this slide many times, as Leslie has said earlier, but it just shows that in a snapshot how our portfolio is developed and how it will be redeveloped when our decision on order, our current one that's underway is finally completed. Section number 2 looks at local supplies and infrastructure. So much along the lines of what Leslie's presentation had, we'll be touching upon our groundwater supplies, our surface water supplies, and our treated effluent. and then move into our infrastructure. So, we have various infrastructure to get this water to serve the public and our service area, from our well fields to our pump stations, the water and tank infrastructure facilities, our wastewater facilities that treat our effluent, and our underground storage facilities, which we commonly refer to as our recharge basins, another big aspect of our water portfolio. So that would lead into our goal number 2, to protect local supplies, potable and non-potable, and their delivery infrastructure. So in that, we will touch upon strategies that really rely upon coordination with water ops, wastewater, and making sure that we're all on the same page, communication plans, and for seamless integration of that data and the information we need from those departments in our regulatory requirements. So just a quick photo, kind of to touch base on some of the aspects that we'll be showing on from our water, our pump stations and our intermediate pump station tanks. Picture up on the right corner, Willow Lake looking from the background as from the spillway in the foreground in front of you. Construction of our wastewater treatment facility down on the bottom left, and our recharge basins. So just aspects kind of that will be touched upon in part 2 of the water element. And then into part 3, planning for the future. So touching upon the water resource management model, which really actually kind of spans between part 1 and into part 2 and then importantly into part 3. Our water resource management model is our tool that we use to track our portfolio for the purposes of producing our DNO, producing our annual report. In some instances, at this point in time, we still have to rely on other sources of data, but we're actively moving on trying to make sure that our water resource management model is updated and is working consistently with all of our water operations and our wastewater operations, so that information that's coming into it is consistent with their information. And we use this one-step tool to provide information in our annual reports to ADWR for reporting purposes. So we're getting it consistently from one data source, and it's a consistent source and it's accurate. But then we want to extend that to beyond just the limits of regulatory and a spreadsheet that's just used for collecting data. We want to bring it into an ability to run scenarios where we forecast what we think may be happening in the future based on our contracts and our commitments that we know are going to come along in the future, and use it to track and understand what it does to our water supplies and what we are going to need to plan for our water supplies in the future. A long-term water management plan encompasses a lot of the elements that we have talked about in this subcommittee since I've been here, and well before that, but also in the mayor's water policy and monitoring commission items that they've brought up. Here I just put in a few things, but water conservation, looking at our program as it is now and how we can expand it, how we can monitor it, how we can make it more efficient. We've talked about green stormwater infrastructure kind of extensively over the last year. It's becoming a bigger component of water quality, but at the same time, it has aspects of water supply in it and aquifer health. So incorporating that in, we've talked about various sources of what is going to be our future water. We have our Big Chino water supply, but we need to look at a range of options so that we understand the implications of each. So I put in just advanced water purification. It's something that they're talking about across the state, and we need to address that in our long-term water management plan. We need to make sure that it's a total, that document is providing everything we need. So Leslie put this, I asked Leslie, I said, hey, Leslie, can you get started on a long-term water management plan? She said, okay. And, she put this together. Yes, no problem. and she just said, this is where you have to start from, this potpourri of information, because it needs to be thinking along the terms of so many different avenues and different respects, from regulatory and DNOs and AMA requirements, all the way down to your irrigation, how you're effectively controlling your outside water use, to how we're working with our water operations and our recharge facilities and our treatment facilities. So with the March 26th meeting, we got an amended water policy adopted, and in that adoption too, there was 3 recommendations that the commission, that the mayor's commission made for other things to look at, and one of them was the long-term management plan. So we'll be coming back to you here in the next 2 to 3 months with an outline that kind of takes this chart and kind of organizes it into what we're thinking that structure of that long-term management plan should be, and then making suggestions on how to move forward from there. It'll be a long journey. I expect it to take a couple of years, but it's a key component. We want to make sure that it's in sync with the general plan and not working against it. So with that, that's, I should go back and state that last goal. So continue forward planning to serve existing and future supplies with available or to be acquired supply types. So that's kind of, that's what we have for you today. I appreciate any feedback that you might have. Like I said, I plan to come back next meeting with a kind of a draft document that'll have these components kind of listed out in text for them.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It looks like we've got a pretty good start on this project, but I'd like to make a few comments in general concerning the general plan. And the general plan has to be voter approved, and ideally it should reflect the community's, the city of Prescott's values, and it's kind of like the charter. The charter reflects what's important to the community and what the community values. And so that carries over into our general plan. And I have a few comments when I reviewed the old general plan and then looked at your presentation. I think we need to also include things that we've actually accomplished in the last couple of years. For example, requiring ductile iron water mains instead of the old plastic PVC water mains, which were breaking and causing a lot of destruction to private property, and also costing a lot of water being wasted. I think we should include how we've started having, we now have tiered water rates to encourage conservation. If you're going to use more water, then you pay for more water. We're actually changing out all of we have a smorgasbord of old water meters. We're changing those out to have smart meters so that we can monitor if there's been a leak. People can see how much water they're using, and also it helps us to collect data so that we can plan for the future. And it also decreases costs because we don't have to have the water meter out driving around in a truck looking at all the individual meters. Yeah. And also planning, I think people need to realize that the Big Chino, our Big Chino Water Ranch, is outside our Prescott AMA, and it's not protected at all. And I want to draw an analogy of something that was incomprehensible a couple of years ago, but now 10 miles south of town, we have a Chinese communist owned and operated strip mine just 10 mile strap. It's unheard of, an open strip mine. And, we need to protect our resources better. And the Big Chino Aquifer is another example. And so maybe we should start thinking about maybe getting that protected with like an INA, for example. I think it'd be hard to expand the Prescott AMA to include the Big Chino, but now, we have INAs that might be a lot easier because it's in the crosshairs. The Big Chino is in the crosshairs of our communities further south. And also foreign entities, as it is now, foreign entities can come in and pump anywhere they want and lease the land from the state land department. There's no protections. And lastly, I think we should include our 2022 water management policy, a few elements of that, because that was very groundbreaking. It was an attempt for a sustainable, well-planned management of our water, and include a couple of the elements like the water budget and no more IGAs with private entities, and providing water only in our city limits and our water service area. So we grow by annexation. So those are just a few. And then also it's important to have public input. So maybe asking CWAG, I was going to see if maybe we could get a draft over to the CWAG people and get some of their inputs, because they've been a major player in the area, being science and data-based. So does anyone else have any comments? Lois?
I'd like
Ted?
you to ask CWAG why they aren't here for meetings like this.
They watch, they're on the Zoom. Oh yeah, Leslie, I'm sure she's taking, yes, she takes copious notes and sends us her tidbits on, it's called the Tidbits on Water. And in fact, Leslie, I want to thank you and Gary Beverly and the rest of the CWAG group. So anyway, any more comments?
The only thing for me when I think about a general plan, this is, what we're going to do in the next 10 years. I do think, and I'm glad to see on this list, the discussion about protecting local supplies and the Big Chino. I think this is one that the community is going to have to, and the council and everybody's going to have to wrap their heads around. What are we doing? How much are we willing to invest? What's our legal ramifications? I think this is a huge element. And so in the spirit of, educating people about the past is good, but honestly, these are the areas. The future is, the recent future and the next 10 years future is where I'd like to see a lot of discussion time of the general plan focused on. If they want to educate, we can link them to the city website, in your water website, where they can learn a lot. But I'd rather focus on where are we going, because that's the discussions even when we were running last year. People have various points of view of we have tons and we don't have enough, or we don't have enough. And I think the general plan is the perfect opportunity for the community to rally around which is true, or regardless of whether we have the science of not of which is true, which is the direction we're going in. So that's the one for me that stands out the most. I'd rather have the public wrap their minds around that than some of the more internal technicalities. Things like worms and other things, for me, are much more internally focused than public focused. So that'd be my, where you spend the amount of words, spend it on where the public needs to wrap their head. So that's just general thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. And then I'd like to add.
Sorry,
Oh,
don't mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt. I just wanted to clarify real quick, because I'm just anticipating the telephone calls I'm going to get. We don't offer hybrid meeting options anymore. We haven't for about 2 years now. There's no Teams, there's no Zoom. We broadcast on the city website through the public portal and then on our Facebook page as well, but there are not those other options. So I just want
there's
to
no
clarify
chat.
that for the public.
No
Yeah,
hands,
thanks.
no hands can be raised, and there's
She's
no
watching
chat.
live, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You broadcast this live,
Right.
don't you? Yeah.
But I'd also like to add that I think it's exciting that we're looking at this from a sustainability and resiliency aspect, because I remember just recently, just a few years ago, we could not say the word climate change and resiliency and sustainability. We could not discuss it. And I think it's time that we we are undergoing a massive worldwide change as far as our climate. And we need to address that. We need to face it. We need to be prepared. And that's where some of these elements of this general plan come in. So thank you. Any more comments? All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Looking forward.
Yes, no, thank you. That's the type of feedback we were looking for. So we'll incorporate that in, and we'll see you in about a month.
Could we also get a copy of all of the slides? I keep asking for that.
Yes.
It really helps me prepare for all city meetings when I see the deck before you arrive.
Yeah.
So that would be something, please, going forward, if we can get those ahead of the meeting, that would be
Yeah.
really helpful.
Especially the draft. I know that sometimes it comes right down to the wire getting it prepared.
I was going to
if
just
you could-
preface it that, we'll work with the city clerk's office and try to get you something in as forward as much as we can. Sometimes we are coming down to the wire on the
Right.
presentation.
Yes.
But we'll work as hard as we can to get you
I'll
something.
be honest, if I can get them by Friday, close of business, then I have the
Yes.
weekend and
Yes.
Monday to really give you quality input. If I get them on Monday afternoon, you will not be getting quality input by Tuesday morning, I can assure you.
Right.
We'll do it the same way that we do the the regular council meeting presentation packets. Whatever we receive on Fridays, we can distribute out as a PDF.
Okay.
That's from the clerk's standpoint. I'm looking at the team's standpoint here. Please get them to the city clerk by Friday so we can give you good input.
Yeah.
We will do our best.
Okay. Well, this is exciting to be involved in our 10-year general plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 5.
General announcements from staff.
Good morning. Kay Sito, Department of Public Works and Water Resources Project Manager. So April is Water Awareness Month, and for the entire month of April, we will be featuring the library viewery. It's already been set up as of, actually I went in on Saturday, so it's now up, and it's going to feature the Big Chino Water Ranch. That's the topic for the library viewery for the entire month of April. We also have 30 tips for 30 days. This is going to be on our Facebook page and also on our new water conservation website. It's actually been, it's a year old now, but it will also show 30 tips for 30 days. So each day of the month of April, there will be a new tip. And on April 20th is Earth Day, and I'll be there and going to be sharing some tables with some other people there at the. I think general plan people might be there this time, and we'll
Okay,
have lots.
I have a question. On Earth Day,
Yes.
are you going to have those little blue city water gauges? Because I use mine every day.
Well,
I measure
I can
all the time.
I can provide those. Sure, we
Yeah,
can bring
'cause
some
those.
more.
I think I got it a couple of years ago at one of
Do you need
your
a new one?
events. You know, it's actually in good shape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can provide the rain gauges.
Yeah,
but
because
we'll
those
have lots
really
of,
come in handy. I keep a flow sheet.
Yeah, we'll have lots of materials for distribution to the to the
Easter
public.
weekend, I got an inch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. I know we woke up to snow on Saturday morning.
Yeah, it
On
was
Monday
wonderful.
morning. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, we'll have a lot of materials at the Earth Day booth also.
Also, I was going to ask you, since it's Water Awareness Month, it might be kind of late, but our Yavapai College OLLI program, I'm telling you, those people are engaged. And when you spoke at the last meeting, they had a lot of questions, And I think there was a request to have us come back with the water resource management team from the city, from Public Works, to give a more comprehensive presentation.
Okay, well, that could probably be arranged, and,
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
we could have some, have Brian Reese and Leslie Grazer
Yeah.
there too. That might be
Yeah,
helpful
'cause-
for more comprehensive information.
Because it was a big class, and they were I'm telling you, very engaged in the water element.
Yes, they were.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And I really enjoyed my time there too when I presented. So
I love the 30 tips for 30 days. I think that's really cool. I think this community is very, very Facebook and Instagram oriented. So good job, and look forward to seeing the reactions you get.
did you have something else to add? One last thing. Okay.
Just one last thing that I saw just a couple of days ago, and I just wanted to bring it up. Prescott Creeks does their annual Granite Creek cleanup, and it will also be on April 20th, probably in celebration of Earth Day. So I just wanted to bring that up, and it's a great event. It does they do an amazing job with many volunteers, in the hundreds, and cleaning up the creeks and making sure they're not polluted. So you can find out more information about that on Prescott Creeks' website, which I believe is, let me get it right here, is prescottcreeks.org. And I'm sure if you just put in Prescott Creeks in Google, it'll bring you right there too. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
Yes, it's a wonderful organization. Any other announcements? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.